Hi, I'm Lindsay from Shreve Memorial Library and welcome to Art Club. This week you see we are going to do something different. Actually, it's kind of the same but different. Today we are going to do some embroidery. The part that's the same is we've been doing flowers lately in Art Club, and this time we're going to do lavender, more lavender, but with thread. So this will be a fun adventure. If you've never embroidered before, it is a great, inexpensive hobby. Which I have just discovered. I'm just learning how to do this, so I'm no expert. But yeah, it's super fun and it's easy to get into. It doesn't require a big investment like art does sometimes, like, you know, painting art. Anyway, so here's what you need. I have an embroidery hoop. You don't absolutely have to use one of these. I'm just using one because I think it makes it easier. You need a needle, preferably an embroidery needle, just because the eye's bigger, and getting this through an eye of a needle is not a pleasant thing. So this is a needle threader. You see, this isn't the kind with the wire. You can't use that kind because it will just pull out the wire. Yeah, this, I wouldn't enjoy embroidery without a needle threader, because getting this stuff through is no fun. But yeah, these are super cheap. They're a couple bucks, well worth the tiny investment. I have 2 colors of embroidery floss. These are DMC colors. That's what they sell locally at Michael's and Joann's. They're not expensive. I think they're 60 cents a pop. This is an olivey green, and this is a lavenderish, kind of dark lavenderish purple. The color numbers, if you're interested, seriously, you don't need these colors, are 166 and 3837. Really, I'm not going to separate the strands here. This is the six strand embroidery floss. I'm just going to use the whole thing. So you could use the, like, even friendship bracelet floss if you want to. That's no big deal. So I have these 2, and I have a pen. You can use a regular pen if you want. You can use a pencil. Those won't come off. This is a friction pen. They're great for all kinds of fabric related things that you want it to be able to disappear. This disappears with heat, and so I just get my iron close to it and it's gone. That said, use it with caution, test it, and make sure it does go away. I have like a magenta-y one that leaves a little mark, I discovered. This one for me, this blue one, does go away. So test it. Also, if you're going to put it somewhere where it's going to get really, really cold, I've heard rumors that this will come back if it gets really cold. Like, say you're in a cold climate and you hang this outside, then you might see your marks again, which wouldn't be great, and which is why I generally wouldn't use it on like a quilt or something. But yeah, so that's what I'm using. You can use whatever you want to mark. It's just they're water soluble pens and all of that, but unless you use something really specialized, it's not going to go away. So you can just be careful, or else you can just not worry about it, which is also fine. Anyway, so you can embroider on just about anything, which is what I think is super cool. You wouldn't necessarily want to cross stitch, which you've probably heard of. That is a type of embroidery, but that's not what we're doing today. You can embroider on anything. This is a dish towel. I think I see a little stain. We buy these in bulk from IKEA, and they are like super duper cheap. We use them all the time. This one doesn't look like it's been used as much as the other ones in my kitchen. So I'm just going to use this because why not? You can really, like, you can embroider clothing, hand embroidery with all kind of stuff. You can do jeans, which is super neat. You kind of need a thicker needle for that, but you can do all kind of stuff. I wish I would have known this when I was a teenager, because I totally would have been embroidering all of my clothes, probably to my parents' dismay. So anyway, so I have this laid out. I ironed it so it's flat, and I would suggest you iron it. You don't have to, and again, you don't have to use this hoop or a hoop. You can use whatever you want. So I'm going to get the fabric hooped up on here. I'm just going to go in the middle. Again, use any kind of fabric you have. If you just have a scrap of fabric lying around, that's totally cool. You can do anything. I wouldn't do it on something that's knit, like this shirt, because the stretchiness, and this is kind of pushing it. You want some kind of woven cottony fabric to do it. But as long as it's just kind of stiff and has some shape to it and isn't super stretchy, you should be good. And even if it is stretchy, give it a try. It won't hurt. Before we put it in the hoop, as you see, I made the newbie mistake because and then I realized what I had done. Before we do that, we need to sketch out what we want. I'm going to mark on the fabric. Really, I mean, you can just, eyeball it and just go for it if you don't want to put marks. But I don't trust myself, so I'm going to make marks. You can use the traceable, which you can download from the video description if you want, or else you can just follow me and I'm just gonna draw it. I'm gonna use the traceable as a reference over here. I drew that earlier, and so I'm just gonna draw it from there. It's a super simple design. It's only gonna take 2 stitches and it'll be a good time. So here's how I'm gonna do it. I don't want it huge, and this is a 6-inch hoop, so I'm gonna stay within the bounds of that. So and you can also use any size embroidery hoop you want to use. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw a line, and remember I'm using erasable ink, so not terribly reliable, but this seems, at least I haven't tried it on this, on regular cotton it works, and this should be pretty regular cotton. So there's one, okay. Up a little bit higher, and I have another sprig coming off, about here, smaller, and then I'm coming off over here. Now don't think that you are limited to the size of your embroidery hoop. You can always just like move the fabric around in it. That's not a big deal. I'm going to put a leaf here. It comes from the bottom. See that? Okay. We are not going to do like super detailed anything. Let's see. Okay. So there's that. And I'm going to mark where this is all going to be what's called stem stitch, and I'll show you how to do it. It's super easy. And these are going to be what's called isolated or disconnected chain stitches. And these are super easy too. So there's one. This will probably be an example of me showing you how this disappears, but that's okay. Okay, 2. And you see what I'm doing? I'm just going to go down here and add little marks for stitches. You can add as many little lavender flower bits as you want. You don't have to add as many as I do, because if you don't want to do a big, if you don't want it to take very long. So it's just, these are just kind of like little leafy shaped ovals here. So just do as many of those as you want, and then we'll be ready to put it in the hoop. There's my little lavender drawing. And remember, if you're worried about it, use something that can be erased. But really just don't stress out about it. You can buy these pens at Walmart, Target, a lot of fabric stores too, because it's become popular for fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in the hoop. I'm just going to center it. If you want to learn more about embroidery, one good way to do it that is free to you is Creative Bug, which is a service offered by the library. Yeah, it's free. You can find it from the library's main webpage, and it's awesome. It'll teach you all kind of fun, crafty stuff, like embroidery. There are several classes on there. This is not one of them, but there are a lot of embroidery classes. Okay, I get this in here, and then we will start. I've got my fabric nice and taut in my hoop, and now I'm going to thread my needle. I'm going to start with the green. One tip is, it's like, Nobody likes threading needles, and so you get as much thread as you can normally, but if you get more than about the length of your arm, you're gonna start getting a bunch of tangles and such. So I would not suggest doing that. Okay. Now, I am going to thread my needle, which is just, this makes it so much easier. Before I got this, I was threading needle with, you know, just with nothing, like just threading the needle, and yeah, that did not go well. This makes it easier. Okay. For a knot, a lot of fancy embroidery people say that you shouldn't use knots. I use knots. It's fine. So make yourself a little knot. I'm going to cut it off close to the knot. And you're best off with some embroidery scissors. I guess you definitely need scissors, but these are like super duper sharp and have a super pointy end. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. The first kind of stitch we're going to do is called stem stitch. This is super easy. We'll start at the bottom. Okay, so I'm just going to go to this bottom point like this and bring my needle up. Okay. Oops. I'm going to tie 2 knots. There are other ways that you can do it with the needle, but I am not that good yet. So I'm going to do a couple knots so this is not just coming straight through. If you're using fabric like I am with, you know, that's porous, I guess, more so than like quilting cotton, then you might need to make more than one. So I guess this is more like cross stitch cotton, so I'm not going to pull so hard. There we go. Okay, so to do a seed stitch, let me make sure you can see. You're going to make your first stitch longer than you plan to do the rest of your stitches. Okay, so I'm going to make this one pretty long. I'm going to pull this back, and I will have just one straight stitch. Okay, and now I'm going to go about to the middle of it. Okay, and poke, come on, there we go. I'm in the middle of it. You see? I'm going to do this, pull back up, and then go the length of whatever stitch I want to do for the rest of it. So I'm going to go there and just stay on my line. Okay. Now make sure you're pulling your thread to the same side. I'll show you that in a second. So now I'm going to go, you can go in the, let's see, I'm going to do this. Okay, so make your next, pull up for your next stitch, and then put your needle down. I'm going to do it right to the left of where that last one ended. Okay, and you see how that's making it almost looks like rope. You can go farther into it if you want. So I'm going to do a stitch up and land it right about here. Okay, see how that's working? One way you can do it that's fancier and faster that I'm not good at yet is you can do the sewing method, which just means that you just do it in one fell swoop. It's not something I'm good at. Yeah, I might even technically be doing this stitch wrong. Okay, but you see how I'm doing this, and I'm not pulling my stitches super tight. It's kind of like a back stitch. If you did the back stitch with me for the Christmas ornaments, that is pretty much the same. It's just coming down on the side of the next one. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go all the way up to the top of this one. Oh, if you want to do a super fancy method, you can. Okay, so it's called the sewing method and it's faster. You can bring down your thread just like you did before and then go up to where your next stitch is, like that. And that's all. It's faster. Your mileage may vary. I find it faster. When you get to the top, just go to the down to where you were, like to where like you would be making the next stitch down. Okay, put your needle through, pull it all the way through to the back, and then we're going to make a little knot. And that is, you just go through a nearby bit of embroidery thread. Be sure you're not going all the way to the front. Okay, pull that. Then go under the same one. Now keep in mind, like, don't stretch it till the end, to the bitter end, because you'll be mad, and trying to get it through a tiny little section will just not be a pleasant situation. So I just looped it again just like that, and now I'm putting my needle through to make a little knot. Okay, and since this is going to end up washed, if you're not doing something that's going to end up washed, don't worry about this, just leave it. But since this is going to end up washed, I'm going to just kind of weave it in down a little ways just to make it a little bit more stable. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it close. Okay, and I'm just going to discard this. So here is our first strand. I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did with this one, with that and that. And then I'm going to do the same thing to go around the leaf. So it's just the same stem stitch around all of these three things. When you come to the end of the leaf, one thing you can do is just go back like you're doing a second stitch. If you want it, like if you're just going in to do another stitch. If you want, you can start again from the bottom, or else you can just turn it and just kind of act like it is like you're starting again. So come up at the tip, make the first one long, up on the side a little bit. Make sure you're always coming up on the same side. Oops. Okay, and then just keep going. Okay, if you run short on thread before you get to the end, here's what you do. Don't let it get shorter than like 4 inches, or else you'll be mad, okay? So what you do is you just go in like you're doing another stitch, and you put your needle down through, then you tie it in a knot just like you're tying it off. That. So we'll do the loop, and then the second loop with the little knot, like that. Weave it in. We'll get more thread. I'm not going to get a whole arm's worth because that's a short distance. Tie your knot. In this case, I'm doing 2. If you're using tighter woven fabric, as I said before, you can totally just do 1 knot. Okay, and I'm just gonna start like I'm starting a whole new thing. So I'm just gonna go middle here, just like before. It's like I'm starting a new little stitch, and just keep going. And that's it. And now I'll just get back to doing it the way I was before until the end. Okay, when you're done and tied off with all of the stem part, I get purple, get the length of my arm. Tie my knots. Okay, so these are isolated chain stitches or detached chain stitches. If you keep going with them, you'll get a chain. That's why it's called that. So you go to the bottom point, one of them. Start with this one at the tip. Okay. Pull it through. Hold your thread. Go down next to it. Not in the same place. Okay. You'll get a loop and then put your thread through that loop at the tip of where you want your stitch to be. Pull it not too tight because you want it to be a little loop and not a line, and then put your thread right on the other side and then pull it. You see, isn't that easy? Isn't it cute? Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing again. Start at the base of the next one. Okay. Oops, what did I pick up? There we go. Okay. Start at the base of the next one. Put my thread over just a couple fibers. Get some of that out. There you go. Okay. Pull it not tight. Put my thread in this loop at the tip of the stitch. Pull it. Again, not too tight because you want it to be a loop and not a line. That. And then secure it by putting another stitch down right on the other side of it. Isn't that super cute? So all I'm going to do now is go over all of these. And the way I'm going to do it, I think, because this is kind of transparent, I don't want my thread to travel. I'm going to tie off here and then start here and then go up like that. But depending on what kind of fabric you're embroidering on and how comfortable you are, you can totally just like use your fabric and go from there to there. So I'm just going to do all of these. It's super easy. I'll show you one more. You go up at the base, right? I keep pulling up something. Up at the base, okay? Down really close to it, but not the same stitch exactly. I guess you could do the same stitch, it shouldn't matter in the end. Okay, I'm gonna make my little loop, put this up and make sure it's in the middle of my loop. Come on, there we go. And pull through. And then put this down on the other side to secure it. And that's it. So I'm going to do this for all of these isolated chain stitches. And then we'll be done. If you want to do it, if you want it to go a little bit faster, one way you can do sewing, and the other way is called the stabbing method. You can sew. Just put this up right at your tip like that. Pull it through. Make sure this is going through there, and then you see you get the same result. Just like that. And then put this down here, and you get the same result. So just go through all of them. To tie it off at the end of a line or at the end of your thread, if you run out, just pull the needle through at the tip where you are securing it, and do exactly the same thing that we did with the other stuff. So just go in to one stitch, do one loop around, and go back and make your little knot. And then you can weave it in. Okay, I finished my last stitch. I'm going to go under here and I'm going to tie it off just like I did the others. Just one loop around, one more loop around, and through, like a little knot, and I'm just going to weave it in. I just mean run the needle through some more thread going this way, but not going to the front. Okay, just like that. And here is my super cute lavender. I'm going to release this from the hoop, see what it looks like. You might have a better time. You see this, if you use a tighter weave fabric than what I'm using. I know I was asking for it because it's IKEA, but this is what I had on hand. And this will come out eventually, and that will straighten itself up. But look how cute! I love it, and these little marks I can take out with just like getting the iron near. And yeah, that's super cute. In fact, I think I am going to iron it really fast. While my iron is heating up, I have just a couple caveats. What I'm using is DMC floss, the one that you can get locally. It is 100% cotton. If you are going to use your iron and touch this stuff, be sure that it's cotton and not something synthetic, because if you put your iron on something synthetic, it might melt, and that would make you mad. So take into account, like if you're using the friendship bracelet stuff, that stuff, I'm not sure what it's made out of, but I'm certainly not sure it's made out of 100% cotton. So check what your thread is made out of before you use an iron on it. Okay, it's ironed. Isn't that cool? Look how nice that looks. Looks like it looks darker for you. I'll try to do some color correction later. But yeah, this is super cute. It's not too pretty on the back. That's not a skill I have yet. Eventually, maybe. But this will be super cute hanging on the oven or wherever it ends up hanging when it's being used in my kitchen. And since it's 100% cotton, I can just wash it. I'm interested to see how well it holds up. But yeah, this was just an example. You can embroider on just about any fabric. Take into account what kind it is and how close the weave is, and if it's knit. I don't know about embroidery on knit, but from what I understand, it's not for beginners. So yeah, this was super fun. I hope you joined me today, even if you just printed out the traceable and colored it. Yeah, this was a fun adventure. I'm really enjoying embroidery. I think it's a nice thing to do that doesn't require, a bunch of stuff, really, that I can sit in front of the TV at night and relax and do something slow, and it's slow. So if this is a craft for the patient, or an art for the patient. I consider this a form of art. Anyway, thank you for joining me for Art Club this week. I hope you had a great time, and I really do hope you join me. If you did, please take a picture of your work and send it into the library's social media. We love to see what you do, and I'll see you next week for more art. Bye.